Douglass was always determined to try and play his part in race relations between the African Americans and the Irish now living in America.
He would often use his experience, his personal experience with the Irish, as a way to kind of gain entry with newly immigrated Irish Americans. And to kind of say, look, your people back in Ireland don't necessarily think the way you do. The other side of that is that, Irish Americans had a lot to contend with as well. Um, as weird as this might sound, the slave was more valuable than an Irish American. The slave was property. The Irish American was just, something to be used and hung out to dry.
The North was really losing that war. Lincoln finally realized that he had to issue the draft. And when he did, the Irish said, well, you want us to go into the army to fight to free slavery and then have the slaves come and take our jobs away?
Men could say they were willing to fight for the Union, but they were not willing to fight for the freedom of the Negroes, and thus it was made difficult to procure enlistments or to enforce the draft.
And they took the occasion of the introduction of the draft in July 1863 to express their opposition to the war. And they rose up in perhaps the greatest urban insurrection in American history.
The attempts to enforce the draft in that city was met by mobs, riots, and bloodshed.
And they took their anger out on the Negroes. And they went into New York City. The Negroes had no idea they were coming. They had no idea there was a reaction to it.
Not only my color, but my known activity in procuring enlistments would have made me especially obnoxious to its murderous spirit.
They tore up railroad tracks. They burned houses or attacked the homes of leading Republicans, abolitionists. They attacked, of course, the innocent victims of the whole thing, the poor black folk who were not responsible for any of it.
They hanged Negroes simply because they were Negroes. They murdered women in their homes and burnt their homes over their heads. They dashed out the brains of young children against lampposts. It burned the colored orphans' asylum.
They were throwing babies out of the window. They took babies out of mother's arms and bashed their heads against the poles and killed them. It was bloody. It was a terrible riot. Some of the things that they did were atrocious.